Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome to our LIASA Interlending Interest Group Lunchtime Conversation. I'm Roselle Jansen van Vieren, Chairperson of this interest group and your Program Director for this webinar. After each presentation, there will be a few minutes for questions and answers. So you're welcome to type in your questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hand if you prefer to verbalize your questions. First of all, I want to welcome all our attendees. There was 111 registrations, and so I want to welcome people of all provinces. From Gauteng, we had 51 attendee registrations. Western Cape, 18. Eastern Cape, 13. KwaZulu-Natal, we have 19 people. Free State, 5. Mpumalanga, 3. Northern Cape, 1. And Limpopo, 1. So welcome everybody. And oh, I forgot Northwest. There are 5 people attending from the Northwest. Welcome to you, everybody. Then I also want to welcome our 2 special guests, Dr. Albert Wort and Prof. Frahm-Arp. We'll give a short introduction of them before their presentations. But first of all, I want to give you some feedback from the LIASA. At the Representative Council meeting held on the virtually on the 24th of June, the Council approved a proposal that if it becomes necessary, the current term of office 2018 to 2020 will be extended to 2021. While the pandemic being the driving force behind this proposal, various other factors have also been taken into consideration. Once a firm decision has been taken, all the logistical issues has been sorted out, it will be communicated to all members. The COVID-19 has changed everything in our lives, including the way we live, we work, we interact with each other. So we are doing this social distancing. We are wearing face masks. We have to wash our hands with soap. We have to stay indoors and avoid public places. This pandemic has also caused the closure of public spaces, including libraries, as measures to protect the lives of our citizens and stem the spread of this disease. It has also impacted our interlibrary line community. Obviously, we are now allowed and able to have our annual face-to-face meeting, but still we want to connect with and provide value to our community. With that said, I want to introduce to you our motivational speaker, Dr. Albert Wort. Dr. Wort is regarded as a thought leader in the field of personal leadership and the application within the professional context. His current knowledge of the brain and the functioning of the mind within the leadership context set him apart from others. He has 25 years of experience in different fields of human behavior and leadership. He is part of the academic team at the University of Johannesburg, the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management. He is also a business coach in the field of self-mastery, individual and organizational wellness, leadership with the brain in mind, spiritual leadership with the individual and the organization, group dynamics and value clarification individually and within the organization. The title of Dr. Wort's presentation, Rhythm as a Life Strategy, make life matter has me intrigued. Dr. Wort, over to you.
Very much. Thank you very much, Ruzel. We are just setting up the presentation, and let me first say thank you for such a wonderful privilege and being part of this wonderful group of people. The presentation is, let me just get it on the full screen mode. Right, there we are. My topic for today, colleagues, is rhythm as a life strategy, and then with that, to make life matters. And specifically in this time that we are finding ourselves, this became such a prevalent area for me, and I've started up research with regarding to this. So let me give an introductory sentence to you. I do believe that over the years we have been living according to balance and work-life balance, because we have been literally conditioned towards that, and that is the actual strategy to which we need to live. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to just take you on a journey and show you that it might just be something else to make our life matters. To make your life work, colleagues, because we have a challenge in that today with regard to making our lives work. So the perspective that I'm going to work according to and then discuss it with you is according to a program of which I'm the academic leader in the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management, and that is personal professional leadership. Now, let me give you a short guidance in terms of this specific perspective. Now, personal professional leadership works according to a short model or a small model that we derived from a Nobel Prize winner a few years back by the name of Prerogine. And Prerogine stated the following, that within electrical components, there is an input, and then that input that comes in, and now if I can just put it in such that it's, for instance, your computer. If you put in your computer in that plug in the wall, then there is a surge of electricity coming through. And that electricity coming through, that is your input. But you will see, on all of your computers, there is a little component that is called a transformer. Let me show you. So, by the way, now, luckily, when you're working from your office, it's much easier, because if I had to do this, I had to run down to my office. But now, let's look at this. This will be the plug that you put into the wall, as you all know, and then it fits into something that looks like this. I'm just going to bring it closer to the camera so that you all can see. Now, this component has a very specific role to play, because in this component, the electricity coming from the wall is being transformed so that the output that goes into your computer is as such that the stream of electricity is not so strong that it blows up your computer. So, what is the relevance now to our lives and within the PPL perspective? Shortly, in our lives, we have all got input. on a daily basis. Since you stand up in the morning and you lay your head to rest in the evening, there is constant input. Those inputs that we're talking about is the realities of life. And we've got different levels of realities. Academically, we're speaking about your phenomenological realities, your existential realities, and more specifically, your realities of being a human being. And those realities are all playing a role. They're coming into your input, and then you will see they run into the transformer. Now let's just stop for a moment and look at this input. At the present moment, we are all experiencing the realities of COVID-19 in its different facets. Those are inputs that you have to deal with. Be that with your personnel working with you, be that with your family, be that with your normal day of living. That is your input. Your relationships, your personal well-being. And all of those have a very specific influence in your life, and that's your input. Then it runs into a transformer, and that transformer, colleagues, is your different life dimensions. And on the next slide, I will show you that life dimensions. You've got 8 functional life dimensions within your life. For instance, your emotional life dimension, your physical, your spiritual, your social, your work, ecological, your financial. All of those are life dimensions that reworks this specific realities that is coming into your life. And if those realities is not reworked in your life, the potential that is coming in, going into your output, is not very good. So what happens is your experience of life is really not good. I've got a saying that was coined a long time ago by someone else. It says the following: garbage in, garbage out. And we don't want that. In a lot of lives that we are experiencing currently, it's a matter of the input that's coming in, it's not being reworked. And we are not living in that rhythm within that specific transformer, so that our output, our purpose in life, our meaning in life is experienced in a higher level, so that we can walk around on a daily basis and say, well, life is not too bad. And if we carry on, I want to show you something. Now, look at that individual there. Now, the first time I saw this picture, I thought by myself, this guy must be crazy. And every time somebody does something like that, I really cringe. I feel it in my feet. Because I'm also worried what's going to happen if that guy tumbles to the ground. Now, don't you worry. That specific individual is Spencer Seabrook. And that, what you're seeing there, is an attempt to complete the world's longest free solo slack line. And that happened on the 2nd of August 2015. That's walking across a slack piece of rope or line with no safety harness for a distance of, hear this, 64 meters and a full 290 meters above the ground. Now my question is, why does this intrigue us? It's because it's so amazing. It's so, well, this guy is balancing himself. Now the question was, did he make it? Yes, don't you worry. He made it and he did a good job of it. He did complete that. But now here's the crux of the matter and something that we need to ask ourselves. Did he balance? Yes. But my question is this natural or part of his being? Is this who this man is? And that guy will tell you, he says, oh, I enjoy doing this and I get something from this. Well, my question to you is, do we have ropes all over our roads and between buildings and all of us are balancing and walking on ropes? No, because it's not natural. So, the question is, rhythm versus balance. Now let us go to that transformer that I've shown you. That transformer has got different life dimensions. And as you read it there, you can see the different life dimensions that is in your life. The fact of the matter is that those life dimensions are not every time of your day on the exact same level or in perfect balance. I must tell you, within my life, I don't know about you, I sometimes stand up in the morning and I feel, oh, I could have slept, I could have done with a bit more sleep now. And I would walk around in the house and my wife would tell me, listen, go walk around, take a walk around the block or do something, but just pull yourself together. Other days, it will be a matter of, I want to buy that, but it's critical that I get that, but at the moment I cannot do it. And I think at the present moment, all of us are experiencing that because we don't necessarily have the money to do what we want to do for very specific reasons. Sometimes your spiritual dimension is lacking. And especially in a time like this, it is a matter of that we are battling with the meaning of life. What is the meaning in this current situation where we find ourselves? So what we are seeing is that some of these dimensions at times are not in balance with the others. And that concurs 100% with what I'm saying is that there is no work-life dimension. And for so many years, we have preached it and said, listen, work-life balance, try and do that. So it's like cutting off a piece of the cake and then just balancing that, and then give somebody a piece of cake there and somebody a piece of cake there. And when the cake is finished, oh my goodness, what now? I don't have enough time to give to my family, but I did give enough time for my work. I did give enough time for my belief system, going to church, to mosque, whatever your belief system may be. But then suddenly, oh, I don't have enough time for my family. Oh my goodness, what now? So that theory of balance is a challenge the whole time and right through our lives. Let me get everything in space here. So, here it is. Why rhythm? Why is this specific concept so important? Because rhythm is all around you on a day-to-day basis. Let's take the first one, your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is the rhythm in your body that is aligned to your environment, which gives you that opportunity to have a wonderful night's rest. So your brain immediately, as the sun goes down, what happens? Your body, and specifically your brain, is preparing itself to go to sleep. One of the challenges that we are finding in the fourth IR at the present moment is exactly this, is with all the electronic components, the TVs and everything that we have, the amount of white light that we have in our houses after the sun has gone down, our brain says, oh my goodness, what now? Why? Because it cannot go into that rhythm. And when that rhythm happens, your brain and your body immediately secretes a hormone called melatonin. And melatonin takes you into the position where you get a good night's rest. And so I can go on and on and on of things that you experience in your brain. In nature, we don't have a balance in waves. If you may get the opportunity in December in going on a holiday and going to the seaside, go and sit next to the seaside. Those waves coming in and going out has a specific rhythm to which they flow. The moon works with the earth in a very specific rhythm to create those waves. The sun and the moon has a very specific rhythm to create a day and night. Your body has this wonderful thing we call blood pressure. So blood pressure is an action in your cardiovascular system that is rhythmic. So for instance, when the blood is pumped into your body, it's through gravitational forces that it goes into the arterial and venous system into your body. But now, how does that blood come back into your heart to be oxygenated so that it can go back into your body? It's because of a very specific rhythm in a valve system that you have, and it pushes the blood through your arteries up and up and up in a rhythmic way just to get back into your heart. So your circulatory function in the venous and arterial system is 100% rhythmic. Your breathing, colleagues, is rhythmic. Your walking is rhythmic. And I can go on and on. The nicest one is music. Music is 100% rhythm. If you take rhythm through all the punctuations and all these wonderful ways in which they indicate rhythm, or in a sheet music, what will you have? You will have a cacophony of sound. So it will not sound good. I want to go as far as to say, if you do not have rhythm in your personal life, your life is a cacophony of sound. There's no rhythm. There's no music. And you cannot make your life matter and have that meaning as you should have within your personal life. Piece of research that was wonderful. I found this about 3 weeks ago, and it's new research. Let me go through this. The cerebellum, and you will see in the picture on your screen where the cerebellum is situated in your brain. Now, originally, it was thought that the cerebellum controls the balance and muscle coordination in everything, from fishes to monkeys, so the whole lot. But when Lawrence Pearson and Peter Fox from the University of Texas went into a deeper research, they found the following. Through PET scans on 8 conductors, as they listened to the music of a Bach chorale, is choral music, where the choir is singing, and followed the score, that the researchers found that the cerebellum helped musicians interpret rhythm. So even in your brain, there's an area which enables you in the music to interpret rhythm. That is such a deep part of your inner being. So the biggest challenge that is limiting rhythm in our lives today, what I believe, is what learning and taking into our mind, and that is our subconscious mind. But colleagues, here's a wonderful and a very important lesson to learn today. You become a limited being, and balance is the way out. So the easiest way how to manage your life, if things are, if you think you're out of control, is, oh, I need to go back to this balance. But the challenge that we face in our subconscious mind is that there is one thing that the subconscious mind cannot do. And remember, in the previous slide, I talked about the subconscious mind. We are feeding our subconscious mind on a daily basis through what we hear, what we say, TV programs that we watch, people that talk into our lives. Those are things that go into your subconscious mind. And listen to this. There's one thing that your subconscious mind cannot do. It cannot discern between a truth and the lie. It cannot. If you tell your mind, I cannot, your subconscious mind will work according to that, and the neurology in your brain aligns itself to that. The synaptic gaps drop. So there's no messages that can go through because your subconscious mind has told you, I cannot do it. And your subconscious mind cannot discern between a lie and the truth. So, I do believe that one of the most important things to live in rhythm is changing our mindset. And I want to show you in closing this model. This is a model that I adapted from a wonderful psychiatrist by the name of Albert Ellis. And Albert Ellis stated the following. He says that in life, we have activating events. Those are triggers that happen in your life. It may be a traumatic one. It may be a conflict situation between you and a colleague. It may be a conflict at home. It may be anything, an activating event, a trigger in your life. Now, I just want to go back. Out of that activating event, we show a certain behavior. We react. And out of that reaction, out of that behavior, we pick up certain consequences. Now let's stop the model there. If we experience those consequences and you go to that person and you say, tell me, why are you experiencing this troublesome time, these consequences? Why are you experiencing a period of disharmony, dissatisfaction, where you feel you're in conflict in your inside? Why are you experiencing it? You know what the answer will be? They'll take you back to the activating event. You know, that husband of mine, if he could just bring his pot and wash all these what is in the washing basin and maybe just clean the house. You know, I'm not the maid of this house. Activating event. Or at work, why are you not happy in your work? You know what? It is that person. And I'm just going to use a name. You know, it's Sarki. And Sarki, now, she is doing this and this and this and this, and I cannot take it anymore. It is really irritating the living something out of me. Oh my goodness. So it's Sarki that's the reason why you are feeling so unhappy at work. Yeah. Did you also see it? And at that point, you would just get out and walk away because it's the safest. But I do believe, according to research, the following is important. The activating event happens. We interpret that activating event according to a mindset, certain beliefs, certain values that we carry. through our temperament, who we are interpreting it in our mindset. And then we give the behavior. You know, Viktor Frankl, he actually stated the following. He says, the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose. And he said, nobody out there can do anything against you. It is your reaction to it that is creating the consequences. And the reaction that we give, our behavior, is seated 100% in our mindset. So when we get to the part where there's a D, the dispute, the negative payoff, what do we need to dispute? And people once again will say, we need to dispute the activating event. No, colleagues. We need to dispute how we are thinking. What is the rhythm in your life that is creating this mindset? Are you still living in this, trying to get to everything, trying to manage the balance in your life? Or are you understanding that there is a rhythm in life? That there's somebody else that may be not experiencing a good day? That there is something that is influencing somebody that is reacting? So if we dispute our mindset, then the activating event is put to the background, and we can actually give behavior that gives us a consequence where we have greater satisfaction, happiness, and harmony. And that brings us to E. Then we will have a more effective outcome. Now, colleagues, if we can live with this and understand the transformer in our lives, we are well on our way in living a rhythm. And then we can make our lives matter even more than it currently does. I do believe that our current situation which we are facing is really a tough one. We are experiencing situations that we have never experienced before. And it's in these situations that we need to think differently. Einstein that said, if we're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, he said, that is insanity. So let us get to the point where we are doing things differently because our mindsets are different. We are thinking in the rhythm of life and getting a different, more positive result in our lives. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was wonderful to spend time with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wort, for such an inspiring presentation. I think we are running out of time, so do I have your approval if we let people ask questions afterwards?
Perfect. Thanks, Rizal. It's perfect.
Okay, so there will be we will give you time to ask questions to Dr. Wort later. Also through the chat, if you want to have some questions, you can ask it on the chat down, and then we will address it later then.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker is Prof. Maria Frahm-Arp, also from the University of Johannesburg. Prof. Frahm-Arp has a background as an academic. She was awarded a PhD in 2006 from the University of Warwick in the UK, and her area of specialization is Pentecostal charismatic churches in South Africa. She has also written 2 books and several journal articles. Frahm-Arp's leadership style is to empower and inspire people to be the very best they can be. She likes to work in a collegial and collaborative way because everybody has different strengths, and when working together, we are able to do amazing things. Prof. Frahm-Arp is going to talk to us about higher education, libraries, and the global financial recession, and the importance of interlibrary loans and partnerships. Prof, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to see if I can share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. And let's just start the slideshow from the beginning. I changed the title just slightly. So what I want to do this afternoon, and thank you so much for the invitation. It's always wonderful to spend time with groups of people thinking about where we are as libraries and the way forward for libraries. I wanted to look very quickly at three important factors that I think are going to be impacting interlibrary loan as much as libraries in general. Unsurprisingly, COVID, our South African context, and higher education in particular, and education more broadly. Then I'm going to look at the difference between transition and change. And I'm going to make the case that we are living in a period of transition, not change. And with that in mind, what does it mean for interlibrary loans in South Africa and in the world more generally? So let's just begin very quickly. We know how COVID is spreading. We know how in South Africa, probably these statistics are incorrect and are not revealing the full reality of what we are facing as a world. I hadn't been keeping my eye on the statistics very much in the last 10 days and was quite amazed to see that we have hit the 18 million people affected by COVID-19, despite all the measures in place for social distancing and to try and keep us safe. Of course, what's heartening is the number of people that have recovered from COVID-19. In South Africa, the picture is less bright. We know that our economy is struggling as so many businesses are closed. The death rate is much higher than what is being reported. I work with a charity called Soul Food. And so the third slide, the bottom left-hand corner, is a queue of people waiting for food parcels. And we've been very fortunate that we have received lots of funding and have been able to triple the amount of meals we hand out. So last year we handed out 2.5 million meals to hungry people, and this year we will probably have tripled that, which just gives you some sense of the enormity of the need out there. And then South Africa is clamping down. We are treating this as something of a police state, and yet that is not helping to curb the environment, to curb the spread of the virus, and nor is it helping with the corruption that we see everywhere, and which seems to make it so difficult for us to find our way forward through this. Then in education, we know that so many of our schools are closed, or most of our schools are closed, and with that closure comes the reality that the vast majority of our schools are not offering education to learners. So schools that are fee paying, most of those schools are continuing to give some form of education, and it's predicted that most of those learners are going to have a lower maths throughput rate, but that they will still, on the whole, do okay. Non-fee paying schools are going to see an enormous drop in academic ability, and for many of these schools, we're talking about a lost academic year. In higher education, we are seeing not only lost academic years, as may be the case in some institutions of higher education in South Africa, but we are seeing universities all over the world and tertiary colleges close. So the whole landscape of higher education is changing. In South Africa, we are going to have to face the reality of very significant education cuts next year. And most of you, in whatever organization you are working in, realize that in whatever way your library is going to be affected by these cuts. And it's going to mean that we're going to have to rethink what we are able to do and the services we are able to offer as libraries. And of course, this is where interlibrary loan comes in and begins to play an even more important role than it's been playing up till now. So with that little overview, none of which is new to any of you, where are we at? Well, I find in my environment and the environment of my colleagues outside of the university that there are three major things that we are all struggling with. The fight or flight mode fatigue. So you're either a person who fights or you're a person who is in flight, you flee from a crisis situation. And as all psychologists will tell us, the fight or flight mode is a good thing. But we in South Africa, just like the rest of the world, have been living in a fight or flight mode for over 3 months. And it is very difficult to sustain that sort of intensity. It is incredibly fatiguing. So most people you speak to will tell you how tired they are. And this is one of the key reasons why. The next bubble of issues that we are dealing with are challenges, the challenges of illness, getting COVID-19, being ill and worrying about whether to go to hospital or see the doctor, job losses, financial losses, mourning the loss of a loved one, mourning the loss of a job, and all the sort of mourning that has to be done in isolation, not being able to connect with the people that you would normally be connecting with in order to help you cope with these challenges. And then finally, the sheer relentlessness of all of this. There is no escape. If you go to the shopping centers, it's not a happy place. It's not a place of escape. It's a place of fear where you have to wear a mask and you can see how many jobs, how many businesses are shutting down. So all over, we are dealing with a variety of challenges, a variety of stresses, and things that are making life really difficult. I want to pick up on some ideas from somebody called Erick Kruger. And he has been explaining what we are experiencing as transition and not change. I'm going to be elaborating on these ideas somewhat in my presentation. But in a nutshell, Kruger argues that change is where you do the same thing, but a little bit differently. So yesterday I went to the shops and I didn't wear a face mask. Today I go to the shops and I wear a face mask. That is change. I love this little image of the fish, which I found. The fish straps onto himself something, and now he is disguised as a shark. Very often, this is how change feels. You add something, or you take something away, or you learn to do something in a habit, and that is change. Yesterday, I wrote everything on paper. Today, I type it all up on a computer. At that level, it is change. And often this kind of change, when you ask the people that are doing it, why is this change happening? They'll very often say, because I was told. So if we ask the fish, why are you wearing this fin that makes you look like a shark? He says, because my boss told me to. Change can often come about without people really engaging with it, questioning why it's taking place and how it's affecting them. Transition, he argues, is something quite different. It is much more profound. So in life, we transition through many different phases, and many psychologists have spent a lot of time discussing this, one of the most famous being Erickson. What we ask of a child at 5 is very different to what we expect of an adult of 35. They have transitioned. Their bodies haven't just changed, they have become fundamentally different. And we can ask very different things of people at these different stages. Within world religions and philosophies, this idea of transition is at the heart of many of these ideas. So if we look, for example, at Greco-Roman philosophy, we have Plato's idea of the cave. Plato argued that we need to go into ourselves, into the cave, to find out who we truly are and what our fears are, and then we can transition to become somebody who is really in touch with themselves. In Christianity, we have the idea of the tomb. Jesus dies, is in the tomb for 3 days, and rises again, a profound transition. In Islam, we have the idea of Muhammad going to the mountain, again, a moment of extraordinary transition. But what does this mean for us today and for us in the library? Before I unpack it in more detail, I was just wanting to share for a bit of trivia. If you Google transition, one of the first things that will come up is the fact that they are transition metals. These are metals that at room temperature are seen as solid, for example, silver or gold. But boil them and you can transform them. They take on different properties. They can even become a different color. And they are good catalysts. They generally attract things to them. And I could go on looking at the metaphor of these transition metals and our own transition. But the point being that transition is about a complete change, something that shifts the inner understanding of yourself, the inner dialogue. So that transition, because it is not as surface level as change, really triggers 3 things within us that we need to be aware of. Very often it triggers fear, resistance, and insecurity. And this is part of what is making COVID-19 so tiring for all of us, because we are all dealing with these 3 emotions in varying different ways all the time. Am I going to be good enough? Am I still going to have a job at the end of this? I don't know how to change, therefore I don't want to change. These are all the dialogues that we have going on in our heads. The transition can be seen as a bridge. We start out in the old, it is settled, and we begin the process of leaving, of journeying. COVID-19 has forced it upon us. We made certain preparations for change, but ultimately we are seeing a whole lot of things end. And I would argue that at the moment as a world, we are living in the face or in the phase and space of endings, chaos, and the liminal space. These are key to transition. Transition is not change because it's not about doing something one way yesterday and then deciding to change and doing it differently tomorrow. It's about letting go. In Christianity, it would be about dying to self. In Buddhism, it would be about becoming detached. It is all about endings. Very often we talk about it as deaths. And then there's the liminal space. There's being in Plato's cave, being in the tomb that Jesus is in for 3 days before he rises from the dead. It's being on that mountain with Muhammad. These liminal spaces of chaos where we don't really know what's going to happen. And these are very difficult and tiring, but also exciting. And only then do we start coming to places of acceptance and new beginnings, exploration and adaptation. Now, some people go through this very quickly, but for most of us, this is a lengthy process. So as we lead ourselves through this process, we need to focus on 3 different things. 1, not to focus on targets, not to focus on trusting that we will get our jobs done, but we need to be conscious of what we need. Trust that you have your best interest at heart. This is a very strange thing to be saying in a platform like this. But self-care, looking after yourself, piling up that pyramid through multiple kind acts to yourself is one of the most important ways of getting through this liminal space. The second is to be anti-fragile. The argument here is, put enough pressure on a rock and it will crack. Put enough pressure on something like clay and you will mold it into something new. Clay can withstand much more pressure because it is not fragile. And even those things that appear very strong, if they have no give in them, will become fragile. And what we need in this new world is the agility of clay. And then we need in our own selves the art of a Christian. A Christian is making small decisions where each one of those decisions is purposeful. So you only get to the top of the stairs by taking one step at a time. You only lead an intentional life by taking one step at a time. But each of these steps must be purposeful. So I'm not sure whether we have time. I think we're probably running out of time. So Rizal, if you let me know, do we have time for a 5-minute discussion, or do I just have about 5 minutes to wrap up with?
You can have 5 minutes to wrap up in 5 minutes for questions, and then after that we will let Dr. Wort also take some questions.
All right, so let me move on then. So what we've decided to do at UJ is last semester we talked about ourselves as being mountain movers because we all learned something new. We learned how to do online teaching, we learned how to use Zoom, and so the list goes on. But now we are talking about new beginnings. And in the interest of time, that's where I want to get to for ILL. How do we think about transition in this space? So some of the challenges for ILL are hard copy print books. Books that we are not able to share during COVID-19 because we are not able to bring things in from overseas, because we may be at an institution that is not allowing us to bring in any books onto campus. So this has been one of our very real challenges. One of the other challenges is the electronic book and the way that the electronic book cannot be shared in the same way as the hard copy book can through interlibrary loan. One of the things I would be interested in hearing about has your interlibrary loan gone up or down in your environment? At UJ, at least, our interlibrary loan for articles has gone up, but of course, we haven't been able to loan out any hard copy books or receive any, so that has gone down significantly. So for ILL, what is the way forward? I found this from Emerald, the idea of the embedded librarian who gets more and more involved in research. And I think that this is one of the areas where interlibrary loan has a lot to offer. So in interlibrary loan, we could be doing things around change. We could be using new technologies, for example, Tapasa. We could be going into more depth in research, as the embedded librarians have done. But if we take the idea of transition seriously, then I think in interlibrary loan, we have a lot of unexplored possibilities. Interlibrary loan librarians have an amazing array of skills, particularly the skills of being a detective, finding what nobody else could find. Most interlibrary loan librarians are extremely good at doing complex searches. What I'm suggesting is that the way forward for a lot of interlibrary loan is going to be in doing embedded research projects. By this I mean getting more involved in the research projects within libraries, research projects done in schools, research projects done in the business world that you are supporting, and becoming more involved and understanding that world better. At UJ, as a library, we are very good at asking librarians to find us a few journal articles, but we don't involve them in the research project. And I think we do that to the detriment of the academic research project. Librarians should be involved in thinking through, for example, the literature reviews of a research project. And here's where ILL librarians have a lot to offer, because you have these amazing skills to be able to do complex searches that very often other librarians lack. But another area where ILL has a whole lot of ways in which it can transition rather than change is to do much more in the world of videos, podcasts, artificial reality videos, virtual reality videos. Now, a lot of you are saying to me, but we already do that. And that's fantastic. But there is a whole new world opening up here where you could be supporting teachers, supporting lecturers, and actually showing them what they are missing. In other words, not waiting for them to come to you, but rather going out to them and showing all the different things that you can be offering, the amazing resources that you are able to find, which very often the embedded librarians or the librarians who have been asked to work in one particular faculty, for example, are less aware of. So while COVID-19 has seen a decrease in interlibrary loan, primarily because we cannot exchange hard copy books, I think that there is an amazing possibility here for the world of interlibrary loan to be rethought about and to become more involved in the teaching project by offering the kind of things that teachers and lecturers are looking for, but often don't have the time to find, and by becoming more embedded in research projects and helping people to find material that they often ignore because they feel they just don't have the time to look for it. So that is the end of my presentation. I look forward to questions and a conversation. And I think we are in a time that is liminal, a time of chaos and change. But in this change is the possibility for new beginnings. And one of the areas that I think really is open for lots of new beginnings is interlibrary loan. And I look forward to seeing how this journey progresses. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Prof. Frahm-Arp. We really appreciate your very interesting presentation, and also telling us what the possibilities for interlibrary loans is in this very challenging time. Tsakani, is there any questions on the chats that we can address?
We have nothing on the chat, Rosal.
Okay. Is there any questions that anybody wish to verbalize and ask Dr. Frahm-Arp?
So can I answer one of the questions that is in the chat, where the person is saying, if we think about this in a different way, won't ILL librarians be taking on the role of information librarians? Yes, in a way I think they will, but it also depends a bit on how your organization is structured. I think one of the things to look at is, does your organization perhaps need a few more people with the skills of information librarians? But for me, interlibrary loan around finding those difficult articles about connecting, looking out more broadly, is one of the things that you can really bring to the library team in a way that I'm not so sure that information librarians always do. They tend to be quite focused within their domain and in helping the individual clients. So yes, I think that there are overlaps, but I think that there are also a whole lot of skills that people from interlibrary loans bring that are different to what the information librarians are doing.
Any other questions for Prof. Frahm-Arp? If there's no questions, can we, sorry, is there something?
No, somebody just made a very interesting comment. She says, everything is about C. It's not COVID, it's collaboration. And I think that so beautifully sums up what I was trying to say in answer to the last person. It's actually that collaboration between information librarians and interlibrary loan librarians, having more collaboration and in some ways probably fewer boundaries.
Mm. Yes, I can tell that is what interlibrary loans is about. It's about collaboration and resource sharing. So yes, this is actually a time where we can shine.
Yeah, exactly. And you are.
Is there any questions for Prof. Albert Wort? For Dr. Albert Wort? Any questions? Dr. Albert, I personally want to know, sometimes it's difficult to find balance if you're working from home. Drawing the line between work and home, and how do you have any advice on how to get the balance in your space, in your life space there?
They are. Firstly, I just want to thank Professor Frahm-Arp. I thoroughly enjoyed your talk, Prof. It was insightful for me, and the way you applied some of these wonderful psychological principles and the integration into your workspace. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. Thank you. Yes, Rizal, I must tell you this. Once again, it's not about balance, because if we are trying to balance it, it will be a matter of getting up in the morning and spending a certain amount of time in a certain space, and then to realize, oh my goodness, I have a family to care for, and then spending a certain amount of space in that, and then to realize, oh my goodness, I still haven't done my meditation for the day, and then trying to spend that time of amount of day in the day in that space. If you have a rhythm, it really blends up with the concept of routine that so many psychologists has talked about in the last few months, to establish a very specific routine to which you are working and functioning. I can give you an example. For instance, in my family, I've got my daughter. She's 24. She works for Colgate, and they can't go back to their workspaces. My son is a student in industrial engineering. He's on Doornfontein, but he's working from home. And at a point, my wife, she was also working from home. So it was a matter of establishing that core routine and understanding what are the, let me use the word, essential elements that you need to work according to in your household. And yes, then our work or our vocational dimension at the present moment takes a lot of our time, especially in adapting to our current circumstances. But to realize that you cannot go with any form of physical exercise, be that to go and walk, have a brisk walk for 20 minutes, because that's enough to have a brisk walk for 20 minutes. And then to when it comes to the food preparation time, for me and my wife, it's a bonding moment, because now we are bringing in her workspace into my workspace, and we are actually engaging in it. And then the family time around the feasting and enjoying the meal, it's around the table. So there's very certain rhythms that we have established within this routine, so that we don't say, okay, now at 4 o'clock we need to do this, at 6 o'clock we need to do this. It's really a matter of getting into that rhythm. There are times that I've experienced that some of my students, I have master students in this program, Personal Professional Leadership, that battle with their program, so they have to contact me, let's say at 6 o'clock. Then I cannot tell them and say, listen, I cannot talk to you. Then my rhythm is adapted and I give them that time. So it's really a matter of establishing that rhythm to see which area, which dimension needs a bit more time. And if you live that rhythm, there's no form of guilt trip that you will experience, because now you're actually in established rhythm for your life.
Thank you very much. I can see that Sakani has got a question.
Okay, I think this is directed to Prof. Maria. It says, what role does the big institutions with big pockets are playing as far as information sharing with previously disadvantaged institutions?
Thank you so much for that question. I had wanted to explore that a little bit more, but realized that I was running out of time. And this for me is one of the big challenges with the financial cutbacks. So for example, at UJ, we are having to look very carefully at what databases, etc., we're going to buy for next year. That means that what are the resources we are going to have to share with other libraries? This is controversial, but I think we actually need to rethink the whole idea of academic libraries in the way that we are structured. We're all pulling from the same pot. And should we not be talking not just of consortia, but rather of, for example, a Gauteng digital library, where all the universities in the Gauteng area share one digital library? It would mean something different for interlibrary loan, of course. But the challenge that we are going to face for the next 5 years in education is such that we are going to have to think very differently and much more strategically about what we buy and how we buy. So, for example, Project Muse isn't used very much at UJ, but it is significantly used. If UP, UJ and WITS all decide Project Muse is being underused, does that mean we all stop buying it? In other words, what I'm saying is we've got to start becoming a bit more strategic. What are we buying collectively as libraries, such that we can share in South Africa all the resources that we need? We know it is cheaper to do interlibrary loan within our country as opposed to with people from overseas. So there is a lot in this interlibrary loan world that we need to be thinking about far more strategically than we are currently doing. Currently, we have bought according to what our users need in our institutions, and we will probably be making cutbacks along those lines. But would it not be useful, for example, for WITS to continue with Project News and UJ to continue with an equally smallish database, knowing that we can then do interlibrary loan, rather than everybody buying the same thing and nobody having access to the less used or less needed articles and products.
Thank you very much. I think we'll leave it there for the questions. At the end, maybe there will be some other questions. So thank you very much, Dr. Wort and Prof. Frahm-Arp. We really appreciate that you were able to present for us. Then you'll remember when you registered, we've asked you 2 questions, and it's in connection with what we all discussed now. This is what you all had to say about your interlending experience during lockdown and the creative ways that you used to deal with the current situation. So I'm just shortly going to give you a summary of your feedback. If I can just quickly get there, sorry. Okay, our first question was, how are you experiencing interlibrary loans during the COVID-19 lockdown period? Some of the libraries indicated that only a few of them provided interlending services, working from home, providing information through available e-resources and open access books and journals. Also, the COVID-19 lockdown period resulted in a lot of unfilled requests. The biggest challenge for library is that they were and are still unable to supply or receive books. They do get a lot of requests from their users. Other libraries found that most printed titles are not available electronically. Not all libraries are subscribing to ebooks and journals. And only a few libraries have digitized books and journals. And some libraries are still closed and the librarians are working from home. For some librarians, internet and data was a very big challenge. And lastly, also some requests are still left hanging in transit, making it difficult to track with, especially with the post office packages. One takes the risk of if you send books at the moment. Then a little bit more positive feedback. Most libraries could supply e-resources. Librarians are grateful for articles and chapters that could be requested. Most of the librarians try by all means to use given and accessible resources to their clients. Working from home has decreased some people's stress levels by a noticeable level. And then lastly, I think this is a tribute to all the interlending librarians. Libraries are grateful for the wonderful cooperation between institutions and the willingness to supply electronic resources and scan printed sources wherever possible for IL institutions. Then feedback on our second question, ways you use to deal with the current situation. It looks to me as if online meetings are effective and keeps one in touch with colleagues and stakeholders nationally and internationally. Libraries communicated with their clients through emails, telephone, and send them online journals and e-books. One library stated They are still doing ILL, but not books, but they are still marketing the function to the users. Librarians use new resources like ebooks and e-journals and have a better perspective of users on the receiving end of e-library services. For example, you need to think about a user's access to data before you send them very huge files via email. Some libraries also make use of various publisher offers to free textbook access and advantaged advertised it accordingly to staff. Other advice was to stick to the work routine, prioritize your work, and manage your time. And then when also going back to office, managing your time at the office to focus on tasks requiring faster network and needing access to the print collection. Some libraries requested items from overseas and looking for free libraries. They made use of Google and found some free downloads and also made use of COVID-19 Rapid ILL as a borrower, which is free of charge. Some entered into reciprocal agreements with overseas libraries, and also Subinet's list of libraries that can supply electronic documents helped a lot as well. Thank you all for your feedback, and it will also be included in our newsletter to follow. Over to you, Maria, for the closing remarks.
Sorry, apologies for my moment of slowness and muting myself. I think that really, for me, one of the big things that comes out of this is the importance of having some sort of strategized approach to interlibrary loan in Southern Africa going forward. And one of the people on the chat was saying we should around this. And I think that that is such a brilliant idea, and I'm going to take it up and talk to the EDs of the different libraries and see if we can't take this conversation further and really draw on the expertise of this group. You know, people who are working with interlibrary loan on a daily basis and know the trends and know what is needed. So I just want to end by saying a big thank you to everybody who has been working in interlibrary loan. I know in my own university how hard my staff have been working, and we are also grateful to all the colleagues at all the different institutions for the help that you have been giving us. And I've just been amazed at how people have really gone over and above the call of duty. Have really gone out of their way to try and make things happen, find information, get it to clients quickly. And I, as a part of the library community, just salute you all for the hard work against very difficult odds a lot of the time. So a huge big thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Prof. Much appreciated. Thank you. Is there any questions still for the two speakers? We can allow about 5 minutes and then we will close. Anybody for more questions?
Not from the chat box, Rosal.
Anybody else? Then I'm going to ask Maria Mtsweni, the chair-elect, if she can do the closure for us. Maria? Maria, are you present? Then we will ask Magda Brits from Subinet if she could close for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just on behalf of the committee, I would like to say a big thank you to the speakers for today. Dr. Albert Wort, thank you for your inspirational presentation, making us aware that rhythm is part of our life and we need to embrace it and live according to the ILLIG to make our lives matter. And to Prof. Maria, well, we appreciate your outstanding presentation on this transition for interlibrary loans and the growing partnership needed between the higher education libraries. I would also like to thank everyone who attended this meeting. You know, this is our first meeting that we've organized as a committee, and a big thank you goes out to the LIASA office and Anna-Marie from the office who helped us organizing this meeting. I hope you all found it very valuable and insightful, and have a good day and keep safe and healthy.